Princess Lyra of Zephora stood at the balcony of her palace, gazing at the glittering city below. The sky was painted in shades of violet and gold, with two suns slowly sinking toward the horizon. From this height, the city looked peaceful, calm, and alive with shimmering lights. Yet, despite the beauty surrounding her, Lyra felt a wave of nervous excitement. Today was the day she would marry. Not just any man, but a human named Elias, who had lived among her people for years. Lyra had grown up hearing stories about humans. To her people, humans were fascinating but mysterious creatures from a distant planet. They were said to be brave, clever, and adaptable, but also ordinary in ways her alien world could not understand. And Elias. He was unlike any human she had imagined. He was quiet, humble, polite, simple. In fact, Lyra often wondered if she had misjudged him entirely. He didn't flaunt his intelligence, he didn't boast about his skills, and he never sought attention. Some of the courtiers whispered that a human could never truly match the elegance of Zephora's royalty. But Lyra did not mind. She was not one to follow whispers. The palace was alive with activity as the wedding preparations reached their peak. Alien servants glided across the polished floors, their luminescent skin glowing softly under the chandeliers. Hovering lights floated gently through the air, casting a warm, inviting glow. Exotic flowers from every corner of the galaxy decorated the hallways, their scents mixing into a heady perfume that was almost intoxicating. Lyra's handmaidens fussed over her gown, a flowing creation of silver and violet silk that sparkled like the stars. It was elegant yet understated, allowing her natural grace to shine. Her thoughts, however, were not on her attire. They were on Elias. She wondered what he was thinking, what he was feeling, and whether he was as nervous as she was. Elias, meanwhile, waited in the grand hall. He stood quietly, calm yet alert, his posture perfect, his hands folded in front of him. To anyone observing, he seemed ordinary, perhaps even timid, but his eyes told a different story. They were steady, observant, and careful. He had trained himself for moments like this, years of discipline and preparation hidden beneath a simple human exterior. Yet today, he did not need his skills. Today was about trust, partnership, and beginnings. As the ceremony began, Lyra descended the grand staircase, her gown flowing like liquid silver behind her. The crowd fell silent. The alien guests, with their striking features and colorful attire, watched her with awe. The humans present observed respectfully, quietly noting the elegance of the alien traditions. Elias stepped forward to meet her at the altar. When their eyes met, there was a moment of stillness, a connection that needed no words. Lyra smiled, a mixture of excitement and relief, and Elias returned the gesture, calm and reassuring. In that instant, it felt as if nothing in the universe could harm them, not even the stories of danger she had heard about distant worlds. The ceremony itself was a marvel, ancient Zephyrin traditions intertwined with human customs in a seamless blend. Rituals that involved the sharing of light, the exchange of words imbued with meaning, and the binding of hands with silver ribbons symbolized unity and trust. Lyra noticed how Elias followed each tradition with care, his movements precise, respectful, and thoughtful. He was not performing for anyone. He genuinely wanted to honor her world. As the officiant spoke words of promise and protection, Lyra's mind wandered briefly to the tales she had heard of human warriors. She had always dismissed them as exaggerated legends, stories meant to entertain or inspire. Humans, she had thought, were clever and resourceful, but hardly capable of feats worthy of legend. And yet, there was a quiet strength in Elias, a sense of confidence and purpose that she could not ignore. The vows were exchanged, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Light beams danced across the hall as the couple was declared married, and for a moment the world seemed perfect. Lyra felt a joy she had never known. Elias took her hand, and together they walked through the hall, receiving congratulations from nobles, diplomats, and citizens alike. Later, in the private chambers reserved for newlyweds, Lyra could finally speak her thoughts freely. "Elias," she began, "you are different than I imagined. I thought you were simple, quiet, and gentle. But there is something more in you." Elias smiled softly, his eyes reflecting the light of the twin suns outside the window. "I am who I am," he replied simply. "I may seem simple, but I have learned much, and I have learned most from your people. Today is not about who I am, but about who we are together." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her. She liked this humility, this quiet strength. She believed then that she knew her husband fully, and in many ways, she did. But she had no idea that the true depth of his abilities, his courage, and his strength would reveal itself sooner than anyone expected. The following days were filled with festivities. Banquets featured foods that shimmered and changed flavor as they were eaten. Music played from instruments that seemed alive, harmonizing with the voices of hundreds of performers. Lyra observed Elias navigating these events with grace, offering polite words, helping the staff discreetly, and even sharing jokes with her closest friends. He appeared to everyone as the gentle, unassuming human she believed him to be. But even as she enjoyed these moments, Lyra sensed subtle changes in the atmosphere. Royal guards whispered among themselves, and the heads of neighboring houses exchanged anxious glances. Reports arrived quietly. Unusual activity at the city borders, strange ships observed in nearby space, and rumors of a mercenary clan with a reputation for attacking alien royalty. Lyra dismissed most of it, trusting the palace's defenses and believing that any danger was far away. Elias, however, did not dismiss the reports. He read the intelligence carefully, analyzed the data, and quietly made plans. Not because he doubted Zephora's defenses, but because he knew the human way of preparedness. One must be ready for the worst, even when the worst seems impossible. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, Elias joined Lyra on the balcony. The city lights glimmered like a river of stars beneath them. "Lyra," he said softly, "there are things you do not know about me, things I have kept hidden to protect you and your people." Lyra looked at him, curiosity and a hint of concern in her eyes. "What things?" she asked. Elias paused, choosing his words carefully. "I have trained, in ways that are rare, even among humans, skills that may one day be needed, not to frighten you, but to protect you." Lyra felt a shiver of uncertainty. She had assumed he was simple, gentle, and harmless, and yet, in his quiet words, there was a promise of power she could not yet see. The morning sun rose over Zyphora, casting a gentle violet glow across the city. The streets below were alive with citizens preparing for the day. Merchants arranged their colorful goods, children played in the parks, and the air carried the sweet scent of exotic flowers. For Princess Lyra, the day began like any other, peaceful, serene, and filled with the comfort of her new life. Elias walked beside her through the palace gardens, his hand lightly brushing hers. The tranquility of the morning seemed unshakable. Lyra admired how he moved, calm and composed, as if the world's chaos could never touch him. She felt reassured, confident that her husband was as simple and harmless as she had always believed. But the peace was an illusion. Far beyond the city, in the shadow of Zephora's distant mountains, a group of dark ships hovered in silence. Their shapes were unfamiliar, and their movements precise, almost surgical. The mercenary clan, known across many star systems for their ruthlessness, had arrived. Their target was clear, the alien princess, and Elias, though unknown to them, would become the shield no one expected. Back in the palace, Lyra and Elias had just finished a private breakfast. The table was adorned with foods she had never seen before, shimmering fruits that changed flavor with every bite, delicately spiced dishes that made her taste buds dance. Elias smiled as he watched her try each dish, clearly enjoying her delight. Suddenly, an alarm echoed through the palace. It was not the usual warning which signaled minor disturbances or technical glitches. This alarm carried urgency, a vibration in the air that made every guard stiffen. "Your Highness," one of the head guards said, bowing quickly. We have detected intruders approaching the city. They are unusual, armed and organized. They are heading for the palace. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She had always imagined that danger, if it ever came, would be something distant, something that could be handled by the palace guards. Yet now it was here, immediate and real. Elias stood calmly beside her, his expression unreadable. "Show me," he said quietly. The guards led them to a viewing chamber where holographic screens displayed the city's perimeter. Shadows moved with precision. Ships descended from the sky carrying heavily armed figures. Lyra gasped. They were not ordinary thieves or rebels. These were professionals trained for war. "They are coming for me," Lyra whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Elias reached for her hand. "We will protect you," he said firmly. "You are not alone." The first wave of attackers struck just as the palace doors opened for the day. Flying creatures, trained as part of the mercenary assault, swooped in with strange weapons that emitted pulses of energy. The palace guards fired their own weapons, but the attackers moved with terrifying speed and coordination. Lyra watched in horror as the battle unfolded in the main hall. The elegant corridors, usually filled with laughter and light, became chaotic. Guards shouted commands, trying to hold the line. Civilians scrambled for safety, some crying, others frozen in fear. And then Elias stepped forward. He moved with precision, his feet barely making a sound as he navigated the chaos. In his hand, a sword appeared, gleaming with a light that seemed almost alive. Lyra froze, unable to believe what she was seeing. The man she had thought so simple was now a force of incredible power. The attackers underestimated him. Each strike of his sword was calculated, efficient and graceful. They advanced with their weapons, but Elias was faster. He deflected energy blasts, disarmed opponents, and moved through the hall with a skill that made it seem as if he were dancing. Lyra could only watch, a mixture of fear and awe in her eyes. Her husband, who had appeared so ordinary, was extraordinary in every sense. Every movement he made seemed effortless, every decision perfect. The mercenaries faltered under his skill, unsure how one human could defeat them so thoroughly. Yet the battle was not over. More attackers poured in from the palace gates. Lyra felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Elias, steady and calm. "Stay here," he said. "Trust me." He moved into the fray again, his sword flashing. The light from it reflected on the walls, creating patterns that danced alongside him as if the weapon itself were alive. With every strike, he disarmed an enemy, sometimes using their own momentum against them. He was not just strong, he was clever, adapting to every situation in ways that amazed even the alien guards. Lyra realized then that the human stories she had once dismissed as legends might not have been entirely false. Humans were clever, adaptable, and courageous. Elias embodied all of these qualities and more. The palace guards, inspired by his skill, began to fight with renewed determination. Aliens who had been hesitant now found themselves working together in ways they had never imagined. Strategy and skill, combined with courage, began turning the tide. In the chaos, Lyra noticed a group of intruders attempting to reach the private chambers where she had been staying. Without thinking, she moved toward them, but a guard blocked her path. "Your Highness, stay back." But Elias intercepted them first. With swift, precise movements, he neutralized the threat, his sword flashing like a comet. He then turned to Lyra, bowing slightly, a calm smile on his face as if nothing unusual had happened. "Are you all right?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her hands trembling. You are not simple," she whispered. Elias chuckled softly. "I never was," he admitted. "But I am here to protect you always." The rest of the morning passed in a blur. The mercenary forces, though strong, were eventually pushed back. The palace was damaged, some areas burned, but the attackers had been defeated for now. Aliens and humans alike marveled at Elias's skill, whispering among themselves in amazement. As the dust settled, Lyra finally allowed herself to process what had happened. The man she had married, the man she had thought ordinary, was a warrior of incredible skill. He had faced danger with courage and precision, saving her and countless others. Yet despite his ability, he remained humble. He did not boast, did not seek recognition. He simply returned to her side, offering his hand, his presence calm and reassuring. That night, as the palace slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, Lyra and Elias stood on the balcony once more. The city lights glimmered, but the serenity of the morning had been replaced by a quiet tension. "Elias," Lyra said softly, "why didn't you tell me?" He looked at her, eyes steady. "Some things must be shown, not spoken," he replied. "I could have told you, but words cannot replace action. Today you saw the truth." Lyra nodded, still trying to comprehend it all. She had always imagined her marriage as a simple partnership, a gentle joining of two worlds. But now she realized that her life with Elias would be far from simple. It would be filled with courage, challenge, and adventure, qualities she had never expected from a human. The stars above Zephora twinkled as they had always done, but tonight they seemed to shine with new significance. The city had survived thanks to Elias, and Lyra began to understand that the human she had married was no ordinary man. Somewhere beyond the palace walls, the mercenary clan regrouped. They had underestimated their opponent. They had learned that one human, underestimated and quiet, could change the course of a battle, saving an entire city. Lyra did not yet know the full extent of Elias's abilities, nor the depth of his training. But she felt it in her heart. The man she had thought simple was extraordinary, and when the next challenge came, she knew he would rise to meet it, sword in hand, fearless and true. For now they were safe. For now she could rest, but the shadows of danger would not stay away for long. The morning after the attack, Zephora felt a mixture of relief and tension. The city had survived, but the damage to the palace and the fear in the streets reminded everyone that danger could strike at any moment. Princess Lyra moved through the corridors, observing the repair crews, the anxious citizens, and the palace guards practicing their routines with renewed diligence. Yet her thoughts were not on the city or its recovery. They were on Elias. The events of the previous day played over and over in her mind. She could still see him moving through the chaos, deflecting attacks with precision and strength that no ordinary human could possess. In a quiet corner of the palace gardens, Lyra finally confronted him. The sun's rays cast long shadows across the flowers, illuminating the sweat on his brow and the calm determination in his eyes. "Elias," she began softly, "you must tell me the truth. What are you hiding? Why didn't you tell me you could fight like that?" Elias looked at her, his expression serious yet gentle. He took a deep breath.
"Lyra, there are things about my past that I have not shared."
"I did not hide them from you out of mistrust, but to protect you and your people. Some truths are dangerous if revealed too soon." Lyra frowned, curiosity mixed with concern. "Dangerous how?" Elias guided her to a quiet bench beneath a flowering tree. "I trained in a human order, a group devoted to protecting peace across many worlds. From a young age I learned strategy, combat, and defense. My training was secret because it was forbidden to interfere in alien politics. I promised myself I would never reveal it unless it was necessary. And yesterday it became necessary." Lyra listened, astonished. She had always thought humans were clever and resourceful, but she had never imagined such dedication and skill. You trained for this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," he replied. "I trained to defend, to protect those who could not defend themselves. And now, I am here to protect you." For the first time, Lyra truly saw Elias, not just as her husband, but as a man of courage, discipline, and wisdom. She felt a mixture of admiration and fear. The man she had thought simple had a depth she could never have guessed. Before she could respond, a palace guard approached, his expression serious. "Your Highness, more information has arrived about the mercenary attack. It appears to be part of a larger plot. The clan that attacked us yesterday is connected to forces beyond Zephora. They aim to destabilize the entire region." Lyra's eyes widened. "Destabilize? Why would anyone want to harm our planet?" The guard hesitated. "Your position as princess makes you a target. Those who wish to control Zephora's resources or influence fear your leadership. The mercenaries are only the first step." Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We need to prepare, but not with fear. We will face this challenge together with strategy and courage." Lyra nodded, determination growing within her. She realized that her marriage was not just a personal union. It was a partnership that could shape the future of her world. And if Elias's strength was combined with her knowledge of her people and their technology, they could face anything. The following days were filled with preparation. Elias worked with the palace guards, teaching them new techniques and strategies that combined human adaptability with Zephoran technology. At first, some guards were skeptical. They had always relied on their advanced weapons and alien abilities, believing those were enough. But under Elias' guidance, they began to see new possibilities, new ways to defend their city, to think creatively, and to act decisively. Lyra observed these sessions with growing admiration. She noticed how Elias treated every guard with respect, encouraging them, correcting mistakes gently, and demonstrating techniques with patience and clarity. His skill was undeniable, but so was his humility. One evening after a long day of training, Lyra and Elias walked through the palace gardens. The twin suns had set, leaving the sky painted in deep shades of violet and gold. "Elias," Lyra said thoughtfully, "I see now that your training was not just about fighting. It is about leadership, about thinking ahead, about protecting those who cannot protect themselves." He smiled softly. "Exactly. And now I must learn from you as well. You know your people, their culture, their strengths and weaknesses. Together we can combine our knowledge to defend Zephora." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her. She had always thought of herself as capable, but she realized that true strength often came from partnership, from trust, and from combining skills in ways neither could achieve alone. The palace remained on high alert. Scouts and intelligence officers reported unusual activity in the surrounding regions. Some small ships had been spotted near neighboring planets, and unusual energy signatures suggested that other groups might be planning attacks. The threat was growing, and it was clear that the mercenary clan was only the beginning. Lyra and Elias worked tirelessly, analyzing reports, planning defenses, and coordinating strategies. They discovered that the attackers had stolen advanced alien technology from neighboring systems, giving them an edge that could have been disastrous if left unchecked. "Elias," Lyra said one afternoon, "these weapons, they are not ordinary. They are designed to bypass our defenses. How can we stop them?" Elias studied the reports carefully. "We cannot fight them with force alone. We need strategy, intelligence, and adaptation. We must anticipate their moves, use their own strengths against them, and inspire our people to act with courage." Lyra nodded, understanding the truth in his words. She realized that leadership was not just about power. It was about wisdom, creativity, and the ability to unite others in a common cause. The next few days were filled with tests and exercises. Guards trained under Elias's supervision, learning to combine human techniques with their alien abilities. Lyra herself joined in, observing the results and suggesting improvements. The partnership between human and alien husband and wife began to strengthen, creating a new sense of unity within the palace. One night, Lyra and Elias stood once again on the balcony gazing at the stars. The city below was quiet, but both knew that peace was temporary. "Do you think they will come back?" Lyra asked softly. "They will," Elias replied, "but we will be ready, and we will face them together." Lyra felt a mixture of fear and confidence. She had always believed that her marriage would be simple, filled with gentle companionship and quiet moments. But now she understood that her life with Elias would be extraordinary. He was no ordinary man, and she was no ordinary princess. Together they could face threats that neither could handle alone. As the night deepened, Lyra reflected on the lessons she had learned. Courage, she realized, was not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it was quiet, hidden beneath calm words and gentle smiles. Strength was not always about power, it was about preparation, wisdom, and the willingness to act when needed. Elias, standing beside her, embodied all of these qualities. And Lyra knew, without doubt, that she had married a man who could change the fate of her world. The following morning, new intelligence arrived. It confirmed that the mercenary clan was only part of a larger conspiracy, one that stretched across multiple star systems. Their goal was to destabilize Zephora and seize control of its resources. Lyra and Elias studied the reports together, planning their next steps. They knew that the coming challenges would be greater than anything they had faced so far. But they also knew that their combined strength, wisdom, and courage would guide them. In the quiet of the palace, as the twin suns rose, Lyra turned to Elias. "I understand now," she said. "You are not simple. You never were, and I am proud to stand beside you." Elias took her hand, a soft smile on his face. "And I am proud to stand beside you, Lyra. Together, we will protect this world, our people and our future. Somewhere beyond Zyphora, the forces that sought to destroy the city were moving, unaware that their plans were being anticipated. The city of Zyphora awoke to an uneasy silence. For days, scouts had reported increased activity near the borders, ships moving in formation, signals intercepted, and energy readings far beyond normal. Princess Lyra could feel the tension in the air. The city, though resilient, had never faced a threat like this before. Elias stood beside her on the palace balcony, surveying the horizon. His calm demeanor masked the careful calculations racing through his mind. He had anticipated this moment, and he knew the challenge would test them both in ways they had not yet imagined. "They are coming," he said quietly. "This will be their strongest attack yet." Lyra nodded, determination in her eyes. "Then we will be ready. Together." Within the palace, preparations were in full swing. Alien guards sharpened weapons, technicians calibrated energy shields, and messengers ran to relay instructions. Elias and Lyra worked closely with the leaders of the palace forces, combining human strategies with Zyphoran technology. They organized defense points, coordinated patrols, and prepared traps for the enemy. Despite the planning, Lyra felt a surge of anxiety. The attackers were not just any mercenaries, they were experts, trained to strike fear and exploit weakness. Even with Elias's guidance, the coming battle would be dangerous. The first signs of the assault came at dawn. Dark ships appeared on the horizon, moving with precision and speed. Shadows fell over the city as the fleet descended, and alien citizens gathered in panic, seeking safety behind walls and within secure buildings. Elias tightened his grip on his sword. Its light shimmered faintly, reflecting his resolve. "Stay close to me," he said to Lyra. "We will face them together and we will protect our people." As the enemy landed, the city erupted in chaos. The mercenaries advanced with stolen alien weapons, striking at defense points with lethal efficiency. Energy blasts lit the streets, and the air was filled with the sounds of battle, shouts, alarms, and the clash of metal against metal. Elias moved at once, a calm center in the storm. He leaped into the fray, his sword flashing with precision. Every movement was deliberate. He did not rely solely on strength but on strategy, anticipating attacks before they came. He deflected energy blasts, disarmed enemies, and coordinated with the guards to counter the assault. Lyra followed closely, using her knowledge of the palace and the city's layout to direct guards and civilians to safety. She was no longer just a princess. She was a leader in action. She guided squads to block entry points, evacuated key areas, and even disabled traps set by the attackers. Her intelligence and foresight complemented Elias's skill, creating a partnership that inspired those around them. The mercenary leader, a tall figure with a reputation for ruthlessness, advanced toward the palace's central hall. Elias intercepted him, sword drawn. The duel was intense, a mixture of strategy, agility, and precision. The leader struck with power and speed, but Elias matched every move, using clever techniques in the environment around him. Lyra watched from a safe distance, heart pounding. She saw not just the fight, but the strategy behind it. Elias anticipated the enemy's movements, turned their strength against them, and adapted to every attack. It was a demonstration of human skill and intelligence that left even the seasoned Zyphoran guards in awe. Meanwhile, the city's defenses began to hold. The guards, trained under Elias's guidance, fought with renewed confidence. Alien technology combined with human tactics created a formidable line of defense. Traps set along the main streets slowed the enemy, forcing them into predictable paths where defenders could strike effectively. Lyra realized that the battle was not just about strength, it was about unity. Humans and aliens working together could achieve more than either could alone, and Elias had shown them the way, not as a commander demanding obedience, but as a partner leading by example. The mercenary leader grew frustrated. Their initial advantage, stolen technology and skill, was no longer enough. Elias pressed forward, leading counterattacks that pushed the attackers back. Lyra joined in by directing reinforcements, closing gaps in the defense and ensuring the civilians remained safe. In the palace courtyard, the final confrontation unfolded. Elias faced the mercenary leader, their swords clashing with sparks flying. The duel was not just about physical skill, but about intelligence and adaptation. Elias used his knowledge of the leader's style, predicting movements and exploiting weaknesses. Every strike he made was calculated, precise, and efficient. Lyra observed, awestruck, as her husband's abilities surpassed anything she had imagined. He was not just defending the city. He was protecting her, the people, and the future of Zephora itself. And yet he remained humble, focused solely on the task at hand, never seeking praise or recognition. Finally, with a decisive move, Elias disarmed the mercenary leader, sending his weapon clattering across the courtyard. The remaining attackers, seeing their leader defeated, faltered. The city's defenders pressed forward, driving the mercenaries back and reclaiming the streets. As the sun set, the battle ended. The city, though damaged, had survived. Citizens emerged from their hiding places, cheering and praising the defenders. Aliens and humans alike marveled at the courage and skill displayed that day. Lyra approached Elias, her hands trembling slightly. You saved us," she said, her voice filled with awe and gratitude. Elias smiled softly, wiping sweat from his brow. "We saved each other," he replied, "and we saved our people. That is what matters." The Royal Council, previously skeptical of human abilities, now recognized the value of Elias's training and leadership. They saw how his strategies and skill had turned the tide of battle, inspiring loyalty and courage among the defenders. That night, as the city settled into quiet, Lyra and Elias stood once again on the balcony, overlooking the streets now lit by soft, glowing lights. The battle had tested them, but it had also shown the strength of their partnership. "Elias," Lyra said softly, "I thought I knew you. I thought you were simple. But now I see the truth. You are extraordinary." Elias took her hand, his grip firm yet gentle. "And you are brave, wise, and strong, Lyra. Together we are more than either of us alone." Lyra felt a deep sense of pride and love. She had married a man she once thought simple, only to discover a depth and courage beyond imagination. And she realized that their union was not just about love, it was about leadership, strategy, and the protection of their world. Beyond the palace walls, the remnants of the mercenary clan retreated, regrouping in distant systems. They had underestimated their opponents and paid the price. But they would not give up so easily. The story of the human warrior and the alien princess would become a legend, one that inspired fear in their enemies and hope among those they protected. Lyra knew that challenges would come again. The galaxy was vast and threats were never far. But she also knew that with Elias by her side, she could face anything. His strength, skill, and wisdom had already proven invaluable, and their partnership had shown that courage and intelligence could overcome even the most formidable foes. As the stars twinkled above Zephora, Lyra rested her head against Elias's shoulder. The palace, the city, and their people were safe for now, and she knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, united by trust, love, and the courage to act when it mattered most. The siege had ended, but the story of their bravery was only beginning, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the stars, forces that had yet to be revealed were already watching, waiting for their next opportunity. But Lyra and Elias were ready. Together, they had proven that even the greatest threats could be met with courage, skill, and unity. And the city of Zephora, inspired by their leadership, would never forget the day when a human drew his sword and changed everything. The city of Zephora awoke to a quiet tension. The previous siege had ended, but the danger was far from over. Intelligence reports indicated that the mercenary clan was regrouping, now allied with a rogue fleet of alien forces. Their goal was clear: to return stronger, to finish what they had started, and to seize control of Zephora. Princess Lyra moved through the palace halls, her mind sharp and focused. Gone was the nervousness of her early days as a newlywed. Now, she felt the weight of responsibility combined with confidence. She had seen Elias in battle, witnessed his skill and experienced the calm certainty of his leadership. Together they had inspired the palace guards and citizens alike. Today, they would face the next wave, and she would stand beside her husband not just as a princess, but as a strategist and partner in defense. Elias joined her in the council chamber, sword at his side, armor lightly glinting under the soft glow of the ceiling lights. His expression was calm but resolute, a mirror of the determination Lyra felt in her own heart. "They are coming," Elias said quietly, reviewing the latest reports. "This time it will not be just a raid. They have larger ships, more weapons, and a fleet of mercenaries ready for a full-scale attack. But we are prepared?" Lyra nodded, studying the star maps projected in holographic form. "We have learned from the last attack. We know their patterns. We know their weaknesses. We can outsmart them." Together they devised a plan. The human ingenuity Elias brought, combined with Zypherin technology and Lyra's knowledge of her people, allowed them to anticipate enemy movements and set traps along the city's perimeter. They coordinated defenses, reinforced critical points, and organized small teams of elite guards who could react quickly to any threat. By mid-morning, the enemy fleet appeared on the horizon. Shadows of dark ships stretched across the violet sky, casting an ominous shade over the city. Citizens and palace personnel moved quickly to safety, guided by clear orders from Lyra and the palace leadership. The tension was palpable, but there was no panic. This time the people were ready. Elias and Lyra stood side by side on the palace balcony as the first wave descended. The mercenaries struck with precision, attempting to overwhelm the city's defenses. Energy blasts illuminated the streets and the sounds of combat echoed throughout Zephora. Elias moved first, sword drawn, leaping into the fray. He moved like a force of nature, swift, precise, and unstoppable. Every strike was calculated, every move strategic. He neutralized attackers with skill that seemed almost impossible, turning the enemy's strength against them. Lyra, meanwhile, coordinated defenses from above. Using the palace's advanced communication systems, she relayed instructions to guards, redirected forces, and closed gaps in the city's defenses. Her intelligence and quick thinking made her a crucial part of the battle, complementing Elias's direct action on the ground. The mercenary leader, the same figure Elias had defeated before, returned for a final confrontation. He carried new weapons and had clearly learned from the last encounter. He met Elias in the city square, their swords clashing with a sound like thunder. Sparks flew and the ground trembled under the force of their movements. This time the duel was more intense. The leader struck with cunning, using tricks and strategies to try and overwhelm Elias. But Elias anticipated each move, adapting quickly, using the environment around him to his advantage. His movements were fluid, almost like water flowing around obstacles, and his sword struck with precision and power. Lyra watched closely, offering guidance where she could. "He will try to flank you from the left," she shouted. A small nod from Elias acknowledged her warning. He adjusted instantly, countering the attack and creating an opening for a decisive strike. With a swift, skillful move, Elias disarmed the mercenary leader once again, sending him sprawling to the ground. The remaining attackers, seeing their leader defeated, faltered. The city's defenders pressed forward, and together, humans and Zypherin guards reclaimed the streets. But the battle was not yet over. Rogue alien ships opened fire from above, raining energy blasts down on the city. Elias ran between defenders, coordinating counterattacks and protecting civilians, while Lyra directed squads to intercept the attackers' advanced weapons. Her strategic mind, combined with Elias's leadership in combat, allowed the city to respond efficiently. At one point, an enemy squad attempted to breach the palace gates. Lyra saw the threat and immediately directed a team of elite guards to intercept them. The fight was fierce, but the combined human and alien tactics proved superior. The invaders were repelled, and the palace gates held strong. Elias moved to the city's outer walls, engaging in a fierce battle against the remaining mercenaries. His sword danced through the air, deflecting energy blasts, disarming enemies, and protecting his people. Guards and citizens watched in awe as he displayed not just strength, but intelligence and adaptability. By the afternoon, the tide of the battle had turned. The mercenary forces, exhausted and demoralized, began retreating. Their fleet withdrew into space, pursued by the city's patrols. The remaining attackers were captured or neutralized, and Ziphora's defenders emerged victorious. Lyra and Elias stood together in the city square, looking at the aftermath. Buildings had been damaged, streets were scarred, but the people were safe. Citizens emerged from hiding, cheering and celebrating the courage and skill of their defenders. Humans and aliens alike marveled at the partnership that had saved their city. Elias turned to Lyra, a soft smile on his face. "We did it," he said. "Together we protected our people and our home." Lyra smiled back, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. "Yes," she replied, "but it was more than just strength. It was courage, intelligence, and trust. We faced them together, and we won together." The royal council approached, their expressions a mixture of awe and respect. "Your Highness and you, Elias," one elder said, "we underestimated the human capacity for strategy and courage. Your actions have not only saved Ziphora, but have also inspired our people. You are more than a guest in our world, you are a true protector." Elias nodded humbly. "I am honored. But this victory belongs to everyone who fought, who defended their home and who trusted in unity." Lyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had thought her marriage was simple, a quiet partnership between a princess and a gentle human, but she now understood that her life with Elias was extraordinary. Together they had faced impossible odds, guided their people through danger, and forged a new path for the future. As the sun set over the city, painting the sky with hues of violet and gold, Lyra and Elias walked through the streets greeting citizens and guards alike. The people's admiration and gratitude were evident, and Lyra realized that the bond between humans and Ziphorans had been strengthened forever. That evening, in the palace gardens, Lyra and Elias stood under the twin sun's soft glow, reflecting on the day's events. "You were amazing," Lyra said, her voice filled with emotion. "I never imagined a human could be so extraordinary." Elias chuckled softly. "I am only extraordinary because I had to be. Because I am here for you, for your people, and for this world. Courage is not about being fearless, it is about acting despite fear." Lyra nodded. "And you have taught me that. Not just with your sword, but with your wisdom, your patience, and your trust. You have changed how I see strength, leadership, and even love." Elias took her hand gently. "And you have taught me that leadership is not just about skill, it is about heart, intelligence, and unity. Together we are stronger than anything the galaxy can throw at us." In the days that followed, Ziphora recovered from the battle. Buildings were repaired, defenses strengthened, and citizens celebrated their survival and unity. The legend of the human warrior and the alien princess spread, inspiring neighboring worlds and reminding everyone that courage, strategy, and partnership could overcome even the most dangerous foes. Lyra and Elias, once a princess and a simple man, had become leaders who symbolized hope, unity, and strength. Their story would be told for generations, of the day a human drew his sword, of the courage that inspired an entire city, and of the extraordinary partnership between two beings from different worlds, united in love and purpose. As night fell, the city quieted,